Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And the Western Province have just snatched a victory against the Sharks, 32 points to 31. 2 penalties in the last 5 minutes as the Sharks took the lead, which only lasted a few seconds before Tim Sweel kicked over the winning points down in Cape Town. Maybe not the best performance from the Western Province, but you know what? They made their opportunities count. They were very, very good at taking the opportunity and converting them into points. And for the Sharks, 4 tries, all the possession, and yet they will go away with a loss down in Durban. A very, very good game, a gripping match of rugby, which was going one way and then the next, and it could have gone either way at the end. And really, really exciting. This is what I've been saying with the Currie Cup, that I think that we are seeing a really, really tight competition, which really could go any way. All the teams look like they can beat each other. All teams look beatable. All teams look like they can win matches. And this was just a very good display of how even some of these sides are and how some big individual performances can make a huge difference. For the Western Province, I think Evan Roos, for example, was a huge, huge part of today's victory. He scored a brilliant try in that first half. Before you sort of break the game down and look at some of the stats and stuff like that, please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. We'll be live tonight for our news show and help us aid to that time, so come and hang out there as well. But in terms of the match and how it unfolded, I mean, a very high scoring game. And the first points came via the boot of Tim Sweel in the 5th minute before Paul de Wet scored a try in the 12th minute with Tim Sweel converting it. So, I mean, 13 minutes in, and it was 10-0 to the Western Province, the perfect response from them. And it was a bit of a try. I wasn't against run of play because they were inside the Sharks' territory, but you know, it was a really good kick which wasn't fielded particularly well. James Fenner tried to throw the ball inside, and Paul de Wet read it very, very well, an intercept, and then went over. So it was a very nicely good awareness try from him before the Sharks hit back in the 16th minute as Thembelani Boli went over. He was immense today, carried the ball up very well, and it was a very, very good, powerful carry from him. Curran Bosch adding the 2 extras there. But the Western Province, you know, were doing very well. Once they got into the Sharks' territory, they'd win a penalty, kick a goal. And that's what Tim Sweel did in the 19th minute to make it 13 points to 7. And once again in the 23rd minute to make it 16 points to 7. So they were building us some nice scoreboard pressure. But they didn't really look like they were going to score tries. And in the second half, there was some 2 very good, important tackles there. But Jaden Henderson went over in the 28th minute for the first of 2 tries. After a couple of phases, he saw a bit of space and managed to see that there was no pillar and went down. So Western Province guilty of not sort of their defensive structures not being up to point there. And Curran Bosch converted to make it 16-14. But once again, you know, just 2 minutes later, the Western Province getting into Sharks territory, winning a penalty, Tim Sweel taking the points to make it 19-14. But some brilliant, brilliant individual play by Tucker Abraham set up a Jaden Henderson try, probably one of the tries of the tournament. You know, we also saw it from Evan Roos with his try, but some 2 mega tries there by those players. So Jaden Henderson scored there for Curran Bosch. And yeah, so at halftime it was 19 points to 21 in favor of the Sharks, who had the lead at halftime. But as I said, I mean, 2 points in normal time, and yet 1 point divided at full time. It was that close throughout the entire game. Second half started really well for the Western Province. Evan Roos picked up the ball just outside the 22 and powered his way through. Jaden Henderson tried his best to try and bring him down. Literally held on to him for all 22 meters, and yet Evan Roos just dragged him through and powered over. Immense power from the number 8. Tim Sweel adding the extras there to make it 29 points to 21. So make it 26 points to 21 before he then added a penalty 3 minutes later to make it 29 points to 21. Fezin Bartley then scored a try in the 50th minute as the Sharks hit back, and then Curran Bosch converted 29 points to 28. A lot of substitutions after that, and the game, you know, picked up a little bit of intensity. A lot of scrum penalties started creeping in, but we saw a brilliant cover tackle in the second half by Werner Koch, and the Sharks, you know, looked, I mean, the Western Province looked like they were over with no issues, and a fantastic tackle by Werner Koch. Also a really good tackle by, it was Marty Liebach as well as Jeremy Ward on Edward van der Merwe towards the end of the half as well, which kept them in the game. And they thought that they were going to win it, because in the 75th minute, they won a very important penalty. Curran Bosch had missed a penalty earlier, not getting able to get the distance. But they won a penalty, and Curran Bosch slotted a really good kick in the 75th minute. And they thought that was it. 5 minutes, they've got the lead, they can do it. And literally, off the kickoff, about 2 or 3 phases after it, the Western Province won a penalty. And Tim Sweel, no issues there. 77th minute, they kicked the penalty, and suddenly looked like the Western Province were going to win. But literally, in the last play of the game, you know, SNATCH went down the right-hand side, and Thembelani Boli won a penalty on the ground. And the Sharks were then going to be able to have an opportunity after the whistle had gone to get down to Western Province half and try and have a last ditch go at it, and then lost the line out. So, a lot of it was definitely, the Sharks throwing it away in many ways because they had all the possession. If you look at the stats tell a really, really different story. 63% possession for the Sharks, 66 in the second half, 64% territory. 4 tries to 2 though, and the attack did look a lot better. Conversions 4 points to 4 to 2, but 6 penalties kicked from the Western Province. So the Sharks' discipline and conceding penalties in the wrong places is kind of what let them down. 209 meters run by the Western Province compared to 377 run by the Sharks. Sharks beat 14 defenders. They had the same amount of clean breaks. The Sharks had more gain line carries. They had almost more than double the amount of passes, more offloads. 5 turnovers won by the Western Province compared to 4 from the Sharks. Kicks from hand were much of a muchness. Western Province are pretty poor under the high ball. I thought, I get very frustrated at seeing the Sharks, putting up and under, off and up and under. But the Western Province, that's something that's been impeding them for a while. They're not particularly good under the high ball. Tackle success rate wasn't great from the Sharks. 32 tackles made of 43. Western Province a little bit better, 112 of 126 at 89% tackle success rate. Rucks were 95 to 97%, so those were fine, but the lineouts for the Western Province were a really big issue. Reinach Venter was very poor today at lineout time. They lost 4 lineouts, whereas the Sharks lost just 1. Scrums as well, kind of ebbed and flowed the scrums. 67% success rate for the Western Province, 86 for the Sharks. Penalties though, Sharks conceding 10 penalties in their own half as 4 in the opposition half. The Western Province conceding 14 penalties in total. So, yeah, as I said, it was a game where the Sharks had a lot of opportunities but couldn't really make it count. And they had some nice defense where they kept the Stormers out, or the Western Province out rather, but they couldn't take their chances. And the Western Province were just getting into good areas, winning penalties, and converting them. But if we look at some big performances from the Western Province, Evan Roos was immense. 3 very, very good tackles. Carries, 14 tackles made, not a single one missed. I thought Ernst van Rijn was pretty decent, made a lot of tackles, was a little bit of a subdued performance, didn't have much to do in the wake of carrying the ball. But the backline for Western Province, they kind of struggled to get into things. Sergio Peterson had some opportunity to run from the back, but, limited. If you look at the Sharks, I thought another immense performance from Tebelani Boli. He carried the ball up 11 times, making 42 meters, beating 3 defenders, 2 offloads, a turnover 1 as well. I thought he was very, very good. I thought Tucker Abrahams looked sensational today, literally sensational. He had 2 clean breaks, 121 meters gained, 5 defenders beaten, an offload and a try assist. He was really, really impressive. Also won a very good penalty on the ground up against, I think it was Cornel Smith. Apart from that, I thought big performances from Ruben Hinn, who made quite a few carries, 9 carries there by him. James Venter was quite quiet. Didn't have the best of games. Good to see Dylan Richardson back on the park as well. But yeah, it's just the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose. Some nice performances off the bench from Sadie Sunny and Leon Lyons, who fronted up at scrum time. I do worry with these front rows when it comes to British and Irish Lions that both of them are going to struggle against those international props. But I suppose only time will tell. But for the Western Province, it's a very, very important victory back at home after they lost against the Lions last week. So 3 performances which I think John Dobson will say that he's not particularly impressed with. Lots of work still to be done by Western Province. But when you think that they've gone to the high fall for 2 games and now hosted the Sharks, and they're going to take what? They're going to take 4 points. They're getting 11 points out of those first 3 games. They'll be very, very happy with that return. Even if the performances themselves maybe aren't up to scratch. They're going to welcome a lot of players back. Sean de Jong should be back next week. JD Schickling as well. Nama Klaba is almost back as well. So lots of players that should be returning for the Western Province and give them a nice boost as well. For the Sharks, back to the drawing board. They got a bonus point victory against the Greek Woods. They did get 2 points today. So they'll be sitting with 7 points out of their possible 10. So not a bad return from them either. Please smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you guys very soon.